I just thought of one more thing about the vape. Jack says specifically that Kaylee called him like 6 times in the middle of the night and then she was texting him to come get his vape. What if that was an alibi to make it look like he was at home talking to Kaylee the whole time? But then the next morning they realized, oh shit, what if they go looking for the vape that we texted and said that you left here? So then they ironically put the vape underneath the sheet. It's giving they were trying to cover up and they're horrible fucking criminals, dude. It just so happened to work in their favors that the police task force was their friends and they were also horrible at figuring this crime out. That's why Kaylee was texting Jack. It wasn't Kaylee texting Jack because she was tied up. It was them texting themselves to make it look like they had an alibi and they were on good terms. This dude was definitely some type of stalker. He literally said he got off work, went to the corner club to drop off food at someone working at the corner club. I would love to double check that theory, what he said. And then he goes home and then comes back to the corner club around 11. In the audio footage at one point, you hear him say, "You were double dipping." And she said, "No, I wasn't. You're crazy." And he says, "Don't say that." But he tells her that he saw her. So this dude was definitely fucking stalking her, but it wasn't BK. That's how they knew everything. That's how they knew that they were on their way home. And I believe that when she said something about, what did you tell Adam? I don't think she said Adam. I think she said Adams. I think Kaylee told the cop, Detective Adams, that she was freaked out because Jack wouldn't leave her alone. They had just broken up and he was following her and asking about her and stalking her because he was pissed. If he did that to her face, dude, that doesn't come from just a random person. If this was just a stranger stalker, wouldn't they want to admire Kaylee's beauty? Why would they destroy that? Why would the person not be going in to rob them, to grape them, to do anything else but to torture them? You don't torture someone that you don't fucking have ill will towards. You don't just see a stranger on the street and be like, "You know what? I'm going to go torture them." Even like the serial killers that do get caught and get interrogated, bro, they all go for a reason. And usually in a case like that, all of their victims will look the same if it was some weird stranger serial killer stalker. So my theory is she never said, "I told Adam everything." She said, "Kaylee, what did you tell Adams, Detective Adams?" But the next morning when the cop shows up, Hunter is the cop's homeboy. Remember, he specifically tells the other police officer, "Yeah, the first guy that got here was my homeboy." And then the other cop looks up at him and shoots a look at him like, "Why the fuck would you say that when you have a body cam on?" So maybe Kaylee really was telling somebody information, but she didn't know that they were all tied in as friends and that all of the information was just going from one person to the other, to one person to the other. And y'all know how the game telephone goes. All the words get fucked up. Words that people never said get said. There was a lot that happened that night, man. And you know what else I find funny? I checked the dumpster footage from around 3 a.m., around the time that you can hear all the stuff going in the house. And you know what? You can't see the dumpster. You can't hear any of the dumpster audio at that time frame. Why are they cutting that out? Because these kids were so stupid, they were literally using their actual names inside of the house and calling for each other because they thought as long as they weren't underneath the camera that it wouldn't pick up the sounds or something. And I also want to note that I did a little bit of searching last night, and these houses are so much closer together than they make it seem. Literally, Linda Lane, Taylor Avenue, and King Road are all, it's like a fucking cul-de-sac, dude. It's like there's a street here, then another crossroad, then another street. So they're literally boom, boom, boom right next to each other. It's not like they had to go far at all, which is why it raised some flags for me, because the Banfield footage where the three dudes was running through the thing at 1:40 something in the morning, all of that is much closer together than they're letting out. Everything is literally right on top of each other, dude. It's the smallest little college town I've ever seen. I'll do another video on that later. That's why I think they're blocking out all of the footage on Google Maps and stuff, because if people realized how close this shit was, they literally ran and did this and then just ran right back across the street to their house, which is why there was blood inside of his cabin. Ironically, it was his own blood. You know what happens when people are waving around crazy knives? They usually cut themselves, especially if some of the victims were fighting back. So that's where that blood probably came from. When Ethan and Maddie was fighting back, they cut themselves. However, usually that would help the victims of a crime, but here it didn't. He just lied. Lies, lies, lies. That's all these kids do is lie. And they were all probably coached by Dylan's mommy, stepmommy, that is a fucking lawyer. Like, are you kidding me? They would have literally had to run from 1122 that close right across the fucking street. Is that why the white car kept circling? They were the lookout? Look how close all of these buildings are together. And remember Steve kept saying alpha, referencing alphas? I wonder why. Also, you should go look up hazings in colleges and what happens to the college after hazings. It would have cost them so much money. 27% of the town people that live there work at the fucking college. It brings in more money than anything.